Well, the canopy on platform 13 and 14 is almost finished, so stay tuned and all will be revealed. Well, good afternoon everyone and welcome back to Piccadilly. Now you can see I have done a little bit of work to platform 13 and 14, not a lot. And I've put these side pieces on, so they run the length of the lighting unit down both sides and the roof section. And the reason for that is because I was getting light bleed out of this top corner here, this top edge. So I've put that, I put tape over the top, over the side with a little piece of supporting plastic card. And then because that looked a mess, I decided to put this card cut into strips of 18mm wide to sort of neaten it up a little bit. And I think that does look an awful lot neater. But you might be thinking, well, why am I doing that if I'm going to put the roof on top? Well, the reason being is because the roof isn't quite as wide as this section here. And that's done deliberately because there is a gutter that runs down both sides. If you look at aerial photographs, you will see that there are two black lines that separate the roof from the glazing strips, one this side and one this side, obviously. Okay, so my next job then is to start sticking these roof sections on. I just thought I'd show you this now. These are just the little strips that are going to be covering the joints, and obviously they'll be painted up as well. So my next job now is to make a similar arrangement but a lengthways fold, and that will go over the ridge. So you'll see that happening in the speed up time-lapse video. Okay. As you can see, there's the little lone canopy coming along on its own. Now this was made up from three types of print, if you like. So you've got the main framework here, and then you've got this bit going around the outside both sides. You might just be able to make out it's a bit like a C shape, and then it joins at the edge. Okay, and then obviously you've got these two pieces on the top here with the ridges. Now for some odd reason or another, it wouldn't print very well on this occasion, so what I had to do was resort to some of the offcuts incoming from the canopy, if you remember. So this is the same ridge as the canopy, and I had to cut this out with the scalpel. It felt quite strange, but nevertheless I think it's turned out quite well. You might also notice I've blackened out the frame underneath, so that's blacked up. But if I hold this up to the light, you might just be able to make out, oh there you go, massive light bleed between the frame and the top skin. If I show you the other way, there you go, that's it. So what I'm doing at the moment, you might be able to make out this little bit of black tack, but I'm actually putting black tack along there and obviously the other side as well. So I'll get that done and I'll show you the next bit. Welcome back. So I've gone ahead and put this together now, as you can see, all glued up. Now, the way I've done this is I've cut a single piece of this LED strip, and this is why I find it very useful, because that piece is incredibly short compared to some of the other brands. and I tried folding it over into this U section, if you like, so it glued onto this beam here, and obviously joined two together, and then tested it, and it worked. But obviously then I had to get the wire out, so that's why it's going from there to join the two together, and then you've got the wire coming down here. Now you might think, well John, you said the other day you only stuck to the grey and green yellow. I do, and I will. It's only because that cable is quite thick, and there's no way I could use that on this. So I've chosen something a lot thinner, and then just labelled it with a black piece of tape. And you might be able to see the negative just there on the end of that. That will then go into a chop block, and then the grey and yellow will take over from there. Okay, so I'm still sticking to my system, except it's just a case of wiring this particular accessory in the same way. If I bought some lamps, street light type lamps, they won't come with my red and black for the 3 volt. I have to fit that myself. So that's the principle I'm using. So you might think, well, that looks a bit ugly having this wire coming down the side here. So what I've found is I've found some channel in my box of bits, and that will then just get glued to the end of that. Okay, I know it looks making the item look a little bit long, but that will be fine. And then that will then sit over the top like that, and there's a plinth for that to sit on as well. So I've got to make a plinth like that, but bigger. All right, because that just needs to be a bit taller. Right, I'll get that done and fitted to the layout. Oh, blimey, what a palaver that was. As you can see, I'll tell you about that in a minute, but you can see now I've got the whole roof on, all the ridge pieces and all these adjoining pieces going across. And I've even put that in now as well. A little shot down, and also coming round that way. Okay, anyway, I wired it up. That worked absolutely brilliantly. But when I made the connections, I felt a wire jolt, if that makes any sense. And suddenly this bit wasn't working, this bit was fine. So I thought, oh, I've perhaps pulled one of the wires out of the terminal blocks, took them all out, put them all back in. No, none of that. It actually turned out that the wires connected to the actual strip in here had come off the strip, and I'd put a whole roof on, everything as you see it now. It was complete. Oh, joking. So the only way I could deal with it is I had to take this portion of roof off very carefully, because obviously I'd only just put it on, come off. So I fixed on some longer wire underneath to make it, to give it a little bit more slack, and got it all soldered back up, and put all the wires connected in, put everything back to normal, and none of it worked. This didn't work, and none of that worked at all. This bit did work. So I took it all apart again, put all the wires back in again, and nothing. I thought I'll try and get the multimeter out and put that on it. And 12 volts was getting to every part of the this area. Okay, so it reached the connections coming from the switch, which is under here, right the way through. It was there. It was at the other side of the resistor. It was getting through to all the different points. Even it was getting through to the LED strip, because if you remember, at this point the roof was still off. I thought I'm going to leave it off and to get it absolutely spot on working. It was getting through to this point. Couldn't work out why it wasn't lighting, and I was just staring at it. And you know what it was, didn't you? I put the grey in the yellow and the yellow in the grey. Since I was relieved to see it was just that, but hey, it works again. But the other thing that I found was the lights on the other day. Yeah, despite the fact I said I was happy, I wasn't. Now, on camera, it looks absolutely fine. But in reality, it looked dimmer in reality, and I can only just see the lights when they're on. So to brighten these lights and to dim the station platform lights, I decided to fit a variable resistor. Let's take a look how I did that. So the chap you need is one of these, which is a variable resistor or potentiometer, or pot for short. So what you need to do first of all is wire up your lighting to a 12-volt supply. Well, I hope this is clear, but these are your wires coming in from your power, so that could be a 12-volt supply. So the positive comes off this side and obviously goes into the back of the LED, if you forget that for a minute. So it would go straight into the back of the LED. That's the long leg of the LED, and that goes to the short leg, and that will just turn it on straight away. Obviously, if you want to switch in it, then you need to break the power or one cable so it goes off like that. So one bit goes that way and the other bit goes that way, and then you send it to a switch, which you can then turn the whole thing on and off because it breaks the circuit. But if you want the lights dimmer, you have to put this potentiometer in, pot, and that's the European symbol for it apparently. Zigzag is the American symbol. But you're basically, again, just taking the power and cutting the wire and then fitting the two ends into the potentiometer. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And as I said, I've taken these two wires off the potentiometer now, and I've soldered them, one to the middle and one to the outside. And I don't think it matters which side you put them on. And then that effectively will fit in there like that. So one end, or there like that. So one end from the power goes straight into the potentiometer, and the other end goes to the LED. And that side completes the circuit. All right, hope that makes sense. Now, I'm not showing you this for the wiring because it's far more complicated than what I've just explained. But what I am showing you is that's where I am putting mine. So my potentiometer will just go in there. If I was to join these two wires together, the lights would be on. But it's this bracket that I'm showing you more than anything else. If you remember, I use these brackets for the back scenes, and so the back scenes literally just slot over the top. Well, all I've done is drilled an 8mm hole into this one because the potentiometer has got a nut on it, if you can see that there. So you take the nut off, and the washer of course, feed that back through the hole like that, put the nut back on, and then wire the two wires into those two sockets there. It should work. So let's take a look. Right, well that's the LED lights before I've done anything to them. So let's turn them down, and I'm going to turn them down more than I would want, to be honest. So you can see it goes very dim. But I've also turned down the brightness of the camera. So if I turn them up to an acceptable level, that's too bright. Probably that is probably more acceptable level. Now it still looks a little bit bright on the camera, but in reality, that is like a bright glow. Right, back to the canopy now, and you can see the first print from the glazing strips. I've decided to go for one side, on one crossbar, because it's going round a curve, and it will be just easier that the bars slide out slightly as they're going round that curve. So I'm going to get that super glued on, and I will show you what it looks like shortly. Well, as the Merchant Navy is approaching the station, quite slowly I might add, I'll pan you round and you can see the near finished canopy. It's not quite there yet, but almost. There's a couple of bits to do. I'll explain what they are now. So there's like a little valance piece going on both ends and the far end up there. And you've got this trim that runs along the back here at this level, but at the back. Okay, it's only on the one side, and there's also I think it's a gantry here or a lamppost, not sure which, with like a funny little railing around it. So I've got to try and somehow 3D print that, but we'll see. So hopefully I'll get that done very soon. Probably will be done by the time you see this video, to be honest. But anyway, you can see the canopy as it is now. So it's all been glazed. Obviously the glazing bars are in, the acetate has been put on, and I've weathered it. Now, I decided I was going to do this a bit heavier than the main canopy, and it's all down to the fact what it was like on aerial pictures. To be honest with you, this does look an awful lot more dirty on aerial pictures than the canopy. Okay, so hence the reason I've gone for a little bit heavier. I have been slightly conservative in the sense that I feel the pictures show an even dirtier roof, if I'm being honest, but I've tried to sort of hold back a little bit so that it's not quite as grimy as it could be. All right, so I hope you understand where I'm coming from. But more importantly, let's see it with the lights on. There we are. I've tried to match the amount of darkness, if you like, on the camera to what I actually see, and it's not far off. It's not quite right, but this is more the glow from these lamps now. And as I take you over to the actual station platforms, you can see there is, well, I think is quite a nice glow coming from those. I'll take you up. 37's coming through. So I'm quite pleased with that, to be honest. So what I'm going to need to do over the next few days is to work on that little bit there, that funny little railing thing that I was telling you about, the valance on both ends, and also that trim down there. All right, I'll catch you again very, very soon here on Piccadilly. Bye for now.